Now call the Committee on Small Business to order. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare recess of the committee at any time. I now recognize myself for an opening statement. Small businesses are the economic engine of America. They make up 99% in this country and provide over half of all jobs. Yet, when it comes to contracting with the federal government, small businesses are too often shut out. The facts speak for themselves. Less than 30% of federal contractors are small businesses. And while the total dollar value of federal contracts going to small business firms has gone up, the number of small businesses winning those contracts has gone down, meaning fewer local employers, fewer innovative solutions, and less competition for taxpayer dollars. The reasons are not hard for us to see. The federal procurement system is riddled with barriers, including onerous compliance costs, agency rules that favor the biggest firms, and solicitations written in dense legal and technical jargon that all discourage small businesses from even applying. Compliance alone is crushing. Over the past 4 years, Washington piled on nearly $2 trillion in new regulatory costs and 359 million new hours in paperwork. For small businesses, that translates to about $15,000 per employee per year, over 20% more than what the larger firms pay. For small businesses working with the government, the burden has doubled. Not only do they have to comply with 100,000 pages of federal regulations, they also have to navigate more than 2,000 pages of the Federal Acquisition Regulations and the Defense Supplement. These rules and requirements add up, and some of the small firms decide it's simply not worth their time or money to bid on federal contracts. This means America continues to lose out on the innovative, cost-effective solutions small businesses are known for, and taxpayers pay the price. On top of that, practices like contract bundling that combine multiple smaller contracts into one larger solicitation effectively sideline small businesses that could have delivered those services directly. Instead of competing as prime contractors, they're pushed into subcontractor roles. That is not leveling the playing field. One of the most common complaints I hear from small business owners is about the language itself. Federal contracts are written in a way that is nearly impossible to understand without a lawyer or consultant. In fact, a Naval Postgraduate School study reviewed more than 1 million Department of Defense solicitations and found that fewer than 3% were written in plain English. Most required at least a college education to understand. Even seasoned small business contractors told researchers they couldn't tell what the government was really asking for. I think that's totally unacceptable. If a business owner can't even figure out what product or service the government wants to buy, how can they fairly compete to provide it? That's why I introduced the Bipartisan Plain Language Contracting Act. This bill requires federal agencies to write solicitations clearly and concisely. The best part is, it doesn't cost taxpayers a single dime, but lowers the barriers to entry and increases competition. When contracts are written in plain language, small businesses can make faster and more informed decisions. They don't need to hire expensive lawyers just to submit a bid. And more competition means better value for the government and for the taxpayer. The House has already passed this bill with strong bipartisan support, and now I call on my colleagues in the Senate to take up this common sense legislation. Together with the Trump administration's deregulatory agenda of cutting red tape, reducing paperwork, and simplifying the federal acquisition regulations, this legislation will make federal contracting accessible again to America's small businesses. The bottom line is simple. Government contracts should be written so that everyone can understand them. If we remove unnecessary barriers and insist on fairness and transparency, we can unleash the full potential of America's small businesses, strengthen our industrial base, and deliver better results for taxpayers. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today about their experiences and their ideas on how we can keep leveling the playing field for small business contractors. I now recognize my good friend, Ranking Member Sinaseros, for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank our witnesses for being here with us today. The federal government obligated $755 billion in contracts in fiscal year 24, $183 billion of which was awarded to small business government contractors. These dollars highlight the critical role small businesses play in supporting federal agency missions, but they do not paint a complete picture or reflect the health of the industrial base. Over the past decade, as the dollars have gone up, the number of small vendors in the government's ecosystem has been cut in half. The government has a recruiting and retention problem when it comes to small business. We must address both issues. Too few are signing up and too many getting out. Today's hearing is especially timely as the government is rewriting its procurement rules. We can almost all agree that the government acquisition process has become too cumbersome, too burdensome, and needs to be simplified. During my time at DoD, I saw a system that does not produce the best outcomes, with many projects not being delivered on time or on budget. Well-thought-out reforms that will make the process quicker, smarter, and deliver the best results would be welcomed. Unfortunately, I do not believe we are seeing that now, and we have reasons to be concerned. Previous efforts have shown what happens when reforms are imposed without small business involvement. For example, category management practices have saved taxpayer dollars, a goal we all share, yet many believe they directly contributed to the shrinking of the industrial base. The administration recently mandated required use of certain contracting vehicles, but requiring the use of certain contracting vehicles may create barriers to entry and barriers to competition for small businesses. We need the administration to provide clarity on how this will be implemented and how it will impact small federal contractors. I am worried that the lack of transparency from this administration and the lack of involvement from the SBA means we may end up in a situation a decade from now needing to hold an urgent hearing on how to reverse the decline of the industrial base. This committee cannot allow small businesses to become an afterthought. We need to ensure that they are heard and their concerns are addressed. Small businesses are the ones driving innovation and bringing in talent and solutions that deliver real value to the government customer. Their success is a win-win for them and for the government. In the past 7 months, SBA has testified once before our committee. I expressed my frustration at the time that we do not have the opportunity to hear from the decision makers and discuss these issues directly. I hope we will again soon. When I asked the administrator about the FAR changes, and specifically the rule of tool in the hearing, it was unclear if the SBA had been involved. This is a troubling pattern. Rather than advocate for small business government contractors, the SBA has been AWOL. The SBA did not take any action as service-disabled veterans saw their VA contracts canceled, and many small businesses took hits from DOGE. There was no action from the SBA to support women-owned small businesses as they got kicked off contracts due to the administration's misguided DEI claims. The SBA did, however, lower the goals for contracts awarded to some small businesses, like those on our panel, and has targeted the 8A program in an attempt to decrease use of these critical business development tools. The SBA is also gutting the office whose job it is to maximize small business prime and subcontracts across the government. I will close by adding that I hope today we can counter some of the attacks we hear on small business programs. They're not handouts that small firms could not otherwise compete if we did not have these in place. Nothing could be further from the truth. Small businesses don't need handouts, nor do they want them. They want a level playing field with a fair shot to compete. I look forward to hearing from each of our witnesses about how we can help them do that. Thank you very much. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. I now recognize the full committee chairman, Roger Williams, for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I can barely see all of you. My chair is sitting so low. I'm really not 5'6", I promise you.
Feels good over here.
Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and everybody for being here today, for holding this hearing on the issues small businesses face when competing for valuable federal contracts. I look forward to hearing about our witnesses' experience navigating a cumbersome federal procurement process. It can be difficult for small businesses to compete when agencies make it unnecessarily difficult to even understand what a product or service is being asked for. This discussion comes at a critical time in this country as our nation continues to prioritize economic growth under President Trump, and we must ensure that small businesses have a fair and meaningful opportunity to compete for and win federal contracts. One of the simplest ways to empower small business and government contracting is to ensure contract solicitations are written in plain language. When the government clearly and concisely communicates its needs, small businesses can prepare proposals that meet the agency's demands. This not only improves competition by removing an unnecessary barrier, but also reduces the cost of hiring compliance attorneys. And moreover, we must streamline the procurement process to reduce administrative overhead. Small businesses often find themselves overwhelmed by redundant forms, under-submission procedures, and rapidly shifting deadlines. By simplifying and standardizing these procedures, we're ultimately deliver greater value to taxpayers and more innovative solutions for government agencies. Small businesses shouldn't be at the disadvantage just because they don't have the same resources that large firms have to hire massive teams of lawyers. In a truly competitive market, every qualified businesses, big or small, should have a fair and transparent shot at competing for success. I look forward to working with my colleagues and hearing from today's witnesses on how plain language and streamlining the procurement process can ensure the best products and services are selected. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To summarize, the chairman endorses the Plain Language Act, is what I think I heard. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. I will. And this big seat's pretty nice over here, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. I will now introduce our witnesses. Our first witness here today is my constituent, Mr. Anumolu. Mr. Anumolu is the President and Chief Executive Officer of ASR International Corporation on Long Island in New York. Mr. Anumolu founded ASR International in 1986 and has over 40 years of experience in aviation manufacturing, engineering, and program management for major aircraft programs like the A-10, F-14, and F-18. Mr. Anumolu was awarded the 2010 Ellis Island Medal of Honor, which recognizes recipients for outstanding contributions to their communities, the nation, and the world. Mr. Anumolu earned a master's in industrial engineering and master's in business administration from Illinois Institute of Technology. He is also a graduate of the Owner-President Management Program at Harvard Business School. Thank you for joining us today, sir. Our next witness here today is Mr. Michael Ramos. Mr. Ramos is the president of Raymond Global in Conyers, Georgia. Prior to becoming president at Raymond, he was the executive vice president and federal lead. In these roles, he led Raymond's engagement and presence in the federal market. Additionally, Mr. Ramos serves as a board member for Raymond Global and oversees their continuous improvement initiatives. Mr. Ramos formerly served as a director of analysis for DB&A and as a senior associate of Booz Allen Hamilton. Mr. Ramos received a Bachelor's of Science in Chemical Engineering from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and a Master's of Science in Chemistry from Tufts University. We appreciate you being here today. I now recognize my friend, Ms. Skolton, to briefly introduce her constituent, who is the last witness appearing here today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I'm so pleased that we were able to get this really important hearing rescheduled, and I am so proud to introduce Sue Tellier, owner of JetCo Federal and a constituent of mine in Michigan's 3rd Congressional District. JetCo is a packaging, storage, and distribution company headquartered in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It began in 2007 and won its first federal contract in 2009. It is an SBA WBENC certified woman-owned small business. Woo! Prior to founding JetCo, Sue ran supplier diversity and business outreach for the Michigan Department of Management and Budget. In this role, she trained more than 4,300 small and underrepresented companies, teaching them how to bid on and win state government contracts. Sue volunteers time to support the defense industrial base and is an advocate for small and women-owned small businesses. She serves as the first vice chair of the board for Women Impacting Public Policy, WIP. She's also the immediate past chair of the Women in Defense National Council and the immediate past president of the Michigan chapter of Women in Defense. She is a longtime member of the National Defense Industrial Association and participates in their logistics, small business, and manufacturing divisions. Sue is heavily involved in the small business community in Michigan, and we are all the better for it. She was recently appointed by Governor Whitmer to begin her 3rd term on the Michigan Strategic Fund Board, which has broad authority to promote economic development and create jobs. Sue has also served as board chair for the Small Business Association of Michigan, the largest statewide small business advocacy organization in the country. She's a graduate of Michigan State University and Wayne State University. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you. Before recognizing the witnesses, I'd like to remind them that their oral testimony is limited to 5 minutes. If you see the red light turn on, that means your 5 minutes is up. We won't necessarily play the music like they do in the Emmys or the Grammys, but that means wrap it up and we'll get into more detail afterwards. Yeah, definitely don't want that. Not good for America. I now recognize Mr. Anumolu for his 5-minute opening remarks. The floor is yours, sir.
Am I at the right place here too? Good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this illustrious committee for giving me this opportunity. After 38 years of grueling work in the small business arena, our chairman, Congressman Lalota, gave me the opportunity to speak in front of you our experiences, good and bad. Some are very good, some are to be improved. I won't call them as negative, but I almost echo what you both chairmen spoke. They are realities of life we face. We don't have 55 lawyers to fight with the government or others to get up there. We want to do the right work for you and want to be a very productive company to serve the nation. We have been doing like this. We have got the exemplary in 60% of all the federal contracts we have run in the last 38 years. Sir, Congresswoman McCarthy has recognized us in 2003 for the 911 area services that this company has supported, honored us in the same building. Only one small business was recognized by Congress. I am terribly, humbled by that experience. So we doubled up our work, we invested more ourselves, and we worked night and day from Long Island and throughout the nation, supporting the country's efforts, both in Navy. 38 years we worked for Navy. We worked for Air Force, Scott Air Force Base during the Iraq War. And we worked for Army, Eagle program, the big programs. And we have been pioneer in many areas. And the creativity and the innovative tactics we have engaged or employed have been copied by Chinese. I don't want to tell this loud, but we got patents. We have process patents. I see also somewhere else those process patents. They were first generated in USA. So I just want you to know the level of effort that was put in and the kind of contribution we were able to make as a high technology, knowledge-based company in this country. Now, to this advantage, I want to suggest the contracting officers still gravitate towards big business, which Congressman Lalota has already mentioned. They go and give massive contracts to big businesses, very small contracts to small businesses with LPTA rating, that is lowest cost, technically acceptable. You must recognize that should be abolished from our scene. Lowest cost, yeah, we will bid lowest cost, true. But technically, they say it is acceptable, it is in their perception, they are not getting the quality of the product. This must be understood by this committee and the contracting officers. Very important. The similar things we could have done in a big way as the big business has been awarded, and those contracts gravitate to big businesses. I request, our chairman also brought up, you need team of 30 lawyers and 20 CPAs to fight the battle. We don't have to fight the battle, we fight intellectually. We still win. Don't think we don't win. We still win some contracts. We win against the big business. We won against Rockwell International at Hill Air Force Base on the Minuteman missile. First contract. We won against certain big companies, I don't want to mention it, on our own without any thing. And we got exceptional rating on those things. 60% of our contracts are exceptional ratings. To that we propel forward. This is on the contractual side, there are many improvements they can do from contracting side. One of the preliminary things I would like to suggest is SCA justification. They just randomly throw on the contractors, hey, this is a service contract act, do it your way. Many people vary in their, assumptions of the SCA contract. I think government should fix the norms, give the correct SCA code, and then we all will be on the level playing field, working together the way the contracting officer wants. When will we learn the contracting officer will do the right thing? Most of them do, please don't mistake me. But many have to be trained. That's my request on the contracting side. The other thing I would like to bring up is banking side. We all need funding, no question. As you are doing more work, there is funding needs are there. However, they only tie you in as long as you can provide your house as the collateral or your building as the collateral or the other things. I want them also to think with us, join the people that are serving the nation, understand the business, develop themselves, train themselves into it. Yeah.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. We're going to get into a lot of these back and forth. This committee is going to be very interested to hear some of those
I'll be only
details.
one second, sir. And they should be trained with the small business people. We are willing to train at no cost to the bankers. They are called relationship managers. And they are never trained, they are just released on us like birds and they come and land on us. I request you to do that. Finally, there are other attributes that are involved we will discuss when you are asking us the questions.
Thank you very much, sir. The gentleman's
you.
time has
Thank you.
expired.
Thank
I now recognize Mr. Ramos for his 5-minute opening remarks.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman Lalota, Ranking Member Cisneros, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Michael Ramos, and I am the president of Raymond Global. What began in 1992 as a small roof consulting practice in Greater Atlanta, started by my father, has steadily grown into a family-owned full-service architecture and engineering firm. Beyond my role at Raymond, I also serve as the chair of the GovCon Small Business Coalition, a group of small and mid-sized contractors that advocate for policies that support business growth and strengthening the defense industrial base. For its first decade, our company focused largely on K-12 schools and municipal projects. In 2005, we expanded beyond a one-person consultancy and have since averaged nearly 20% year-over-year growth. By the end of this year, 2025, we expect to employ 120 professionals with expertise in architecture, interior design, structural engineering, mechanical, electrical, plumbing services, civil engineering, and building envelope services. The SBA's 8A program and our certification as a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business provided crucial development support and opportunities that helped us build up performance and diversify into broader markets, including the federal market. Although we have since graduated from these programs, Raymond continues to work extensively with the DoD and actively participates in the SBA's Mentor Protege program. This hearing comes at an especially pivotal moment. With significant changes underway in the federal acquisition landscape, it is imperative for small businesses to remain at the center of innovation and competitiveness. I would like to highlight several pressing issues that are impacting firms like mine and the broader small business community. First, cybersecurity is critical to national security, but the rollout of DoD CMMC 2.0 has been costly and uncertain, and those burdens fall hardest on the smallest firms with limited resources. At my company, compliance with a Level 2 certification will cost approximately $500,000, which is not a one-time cost. The acquisition process, federal solicitations are often too unclear, inconsistent, and overly complex. This frequently leads to protests that small businesses can least afford. Recently, we pursued a federal procurement. This was awarded 3 times, protested twice, and ultimately canceled. For small firms, that means months and sometimes years of lost opportunity and valuable resources. The Mentor Protege program. This program has been transformative for my company and our growth. However, the rapid expansion of joint ventures has tilted the competitive landscape. Increasingly, contract scoring criteria favors Mentor Protege joint ventures, leaving independent small businesses with fewer opportunities to prime. New SBA rules. Published at the end of last year, a recent SBA rule requires small businesses sold after January 2026 to recertify their size status within 30 days. What this means is they are now ineligible for future task orders under their existing contracts. This will result in reduced company valuations and shareholder equity, discourage investments, and will have a chilling effect on the mergers and acquisitions market. Left as is, the impact on a small business's ability to sell will be severe. The contracting cliff. Right now, firms are classified as either small or large. There is no middle ground. This binary system forces companies that grow just beyond the small business threshold to compete directly with billion-dollar primes. A structured transition program for mid-sized firms is urgently needed. The FAR rewrite. As GSA and OMB undertake the monumental and necessary task of rewriting the FAR, it's critical that reforms do not strip away small business protections. Streamlining regulations that should not be synonymous with eliminating safeguards, which is why the Rule of Two should be codified into law. Protecting this foundation will preserve small business competitions and enable small contractors to intercompete and remain vital participants in the defense industrial base. And finally, inflation and size standards. Rising construction costs have inflated revenues without reflecting true growth. SBA size standards based on outdated 2017 data don't reflect current market conditions. That misalignment threatens competitiveness for many small businesses. These challenges add up. Rising compliance costs, inefficient acquisition processes, structural imbalances in programs, and poorly calibrated regulations all weaken competition. And when competition suffers, so does innovation. And so does our defense industrial base. Small businesses bring agility, economic strength, and the ability to respond quickly to evolving needs. But to keep playing that role, we need a contracting environment that works for us, not against us. Thank you again for the chance to share my perspective, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ramos. I now recognize Ms. Tellier for her 5-minute opening remarks.
Good morning, Chairman Lalota, Ranking Member Cisneros, and members of the subcommittee. As mentioned by my fantastic Congresswoman, my name is Sue Schweim-Tellier. I am the president of JetCo Federal, an SBA-certified woman-owned small business. I also serve as vice chair of the board for Women Impacting Public Policy, a national nonpartisan organization advocating on behalf of women-owned small businesses. Thank you for the invitation today. It's a tremendous honor. JetCo Federal is a prime contractor. We are freakishly obsessed with efficient warehouses. Our government and industry partners rely on my team to design, produce, and deliver complex packaging solutions, perform storage and distribution services, and transport into secure facilities. JetCo Federal won our first DoD contract in 2009, and we have continuously increased our role in supporting the missions of the Defense Logistics Agency, the Army, and the Navy. 80% of our work right now supports the defense industrial base in some capacity, usually very much behind the scenes. We joke that we are the least interesting, maybe boring part of the manufacturing cycle, yet we play a critical role in protecting DoD parts for storage and distribution. My employees are incredibly proud to support the warfighter, and I am clearly comfortable putting my Midwestern humility aside to say that we have really earned a strong reputation as a reliable partner for our DoD agencies. The committee's focus today is timely and important. The number of small business federal contractors is shrinking. Since 2010, the number of small businesses winning federal contracts has decreased by 50%, even as contract spending has increased. This results in a more stratified federal contractor pool. Our conversation today, as all of you have mentioned in your opening remarks, it really should focus on strong small business strength and the importance of opportunities for us. We're job providers in all of your districts, significant job providers. It's equally important, though, that we talk about good government, and expansive market research, the Rule of Two, and small and socioeconomic set-aside programs are not acts of charity. Instead, they ensure that government benefits from the innovation, competition, flexibility, and value small businesses bring. Shrinking the pool of qualified contractors will leave agencies increasingly reliant on a narrower group of large incumbents, directly reducing the government's leverage. It is not good business or good government to have a stratified contractor pool. There is no benefit to pushing small companies out of federal contracting. As a small business leader, I factor risk into my business decisions. This includes how I use my time, how I manage unpredictability in my customer base, and how I price my solutions. I must have some degree of confidence that I have a chance at winning an opportunity to justify pursuing it. Otherwise, I'm wasting precious time and resources from my small but mighty team. Any threat or even a potential threat to the rule of two increases risk for small businesses in federal contracting. The rule of two has historically been a bedrock protection for us. Its erosion results in a less welcoming environment, reducing opportunities for small, innovative firms and, instead, accelerating consolidation. The FAR rewrite presents a pivotal opportunity to address these challenges. Retaining and codifying the rule of two, making it a true shall requirement applied consistently across vehicles, is essential to keeping small firms engaged in the federal marketplace. The transformation of FAR Part 10 and the new direction for market research is also concerning. The drastic streamline proposed effectively trims market research down to 3 very limited situations. More prescriptive triggers, such as those related to bundling, consolidation, and small business outreach, have been removed. References to small business consultation and set-aside considerations have been stripped. For experienced contractors like JetCo, this increases risk. There's no longer a mandated pause to engage small business advocates, notify incumbents, or explore set-aside potential. Instead, agencies may proceed quickly, potentially overlooking small business opportunities. Under pressure to move fast, agencies may default to expedience. If there's one thing I hope you take away from my words today, it is that small businesses are not just beneficiaries of federal contracts, they are essential partners to agencies. We bring innovation, agility, and cost savings while providing the government and taxpayers with options to meet mission needs quickly and effectively. The innovation we deliver strengthens America's competitive edge in the global marketplace. Protecting and expanding our role in federal procurement is both sound policy and strategic imperative. And if we continue to face unpredictability and competition challenges, you should not be surprised when fewer of us remain engaged in federal contracting. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to testify today, and I look forward to answering any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank to each of you for your awesome 5-minute opening statements. Now here comes the fun part. We're going to move to the member questions under the 5-minute rule, and I recognize myself for 5 minutes. Mr. Anumolu, it's great to see you here in D.C. The more Long Islanders in D.C., the better, I say. I think the last time we saw each other was at your workplace when you allowed me to visit about a year ago.
Yes, sir.
Your testimony, sir, reads like the American dream and what you've done in this great country.
Yes.
You came here, you studied at top universities, and went on to build a company that's delivered critical services to our military, enhanced our national security, kept our troops safe, all right from Long Island. I was hoping that you can share with the committee what you think, sir, has made that dream possible.
Two inspiring things. I found when I came here first, a good study, intellectual penetration into the American arena will allow you to grow properly, bring our families together nicely. And also I have an interest to serve our community. I achieved all those dreams on my own in a modest way. Not in a big way, but modest way. I brought my family well, my children went to top schools, and I'm able to serve the community by doing real hard intellectual work. And that's what elevated us. To add to that, Congress also somewhat recognized me right when we did the best things for the Hill Air Force Base and the Iraq War. And since then, we propelled further. 38 years serving in Navy and also winning their contracts against big business with all the odds is what we are fighting. If you can level the playing field slightly, I can tell you the intellectual stamina we are offering will be exponentially greater. The AI contribution we are doing as a company will be enormous. The cost reduction to the US government will be tremendous. We want to achieve those things. We want to feel satisfied when we go home in the night that I achieved something for my nation, for my people, for my house.
We love it. Here on the committee, we want to harness dedication, innovation, perseverance. That is what we believe to be the American dream. I think that's a Democrat and Republican principle here. We want to help unleash that everywhere in every corner of America.
Yes.
We're here today, and we alluded to this in your opening testimony. You're going to tell us some of the tough things you've been through and how sometimes government has made things a little more difficult for you. Can you tell us, sir, a little bit about the application process for some of these contracts and some of the roadblocks you've suffered through throughout your many decades' experience trying
Yes.
to earn those contracts, sir?
In 38 years, when we see a contract coming with 2,000 pages, even before we read, hey, this is earmarked for somebody. There is a bad word we use in our lingo in the company. Hey, that is set for somebody else. Somebody is there, So we don't even try to bid it. That should not be our feeling when we are willing to spend our valuable time night and day. And there are many contracts that come. All the service, intellectual contracts, I request the contracting officers to try and level field with simple language as your suggestions are coming from both the chairman. If you do it, 50% of the more bids will be there, more competition, and we can beat big business.
To my left here is the Federal Acquisition Regulation, 2,000 pages here.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, we hurt some trees to do this, but I think the point is well worth it to demonstrate to the audience here, folks watching from home, that these regulations, in our view, are onerous. That when
Yes, sir.
a hardworking, dedicated principal business like you has to apply for a contract,
Yes.
you have to consult these pages.
Yes, sir.
My question, I only have about 30 seconds remaining.
Yes, sir.
My final question is, what would the Plain Language and Contracting Act do for you? An effort to simplify the language in these contract applications. What would a simpler application process mean for your company, sir?
All that they have to do is define what type of people they want us to use, SCA, very important. Then tell us, hey, this is what we are expecting as a ultimate objective from your productivity or from our sidrals, what we give to the government, and that's all we need.
Thank you. My time has expired. I hope that we can get a second round and maybe some more questions in. I want to talk to some of you folks in the second round. But I'm going to yield and recognize Mr. Sinisteros for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you again all for being here today. And I'm going to start with Ms. Tellier. As I said in my opening remarks, we should welcome reforms that simplify the government's procurement process. But there are concerns that this administration is making changes that will drive small businesses out of the industrial base. This is highlighted by the potential elimination of the Rule of Two that both you mentioned as well as Mr. Ramos mentioned. What happens to small businesses and the industrial base if the Rule of Two goes away?
So we have to have some degree of confidence as small business owners or leaders or business developers that we have a shot at winning. The Rule of Two gives us confidence in that. Changes to the Rule of Two that would only apply to certain sizes of solicitations doesn't help with that. My contract portfolio is not conducive to me only going after $249,000 opportunities because they're under this ad. I need to have confidence that I can compete well on solicitations well over that. Market research really allows contracting professionals to understand whether two or more small companies can compete effectively. It decimates us. There are small businesses that will leave federal contracting if they don't have that confidence.
Mr. Ramos, love to hear your comments on that.
I do think that if we remove the Rule of Two, that'll be damaging to the defense industrial base. I think that's pretty critical to understand. If you remove that rule and you do not codify it, you have this scenario where not only will they leave, but you will just create massive entrenchment of the existing larger small businesses, but also to a certain degree, it's a land grab by the larger companies that are in the market. And it is an opportunity right now to actually codify it and make sure that small businesses are protected for larger contracts and when they're qualified. A lot of sources' thoughts are to make sure that's happening, and there's opportunities for Rule 2 to be applied today.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I request unanimous consent to insert for the record these letters and statements of support for the Rule of Two.
Without objection.
Thank you very much. Ms. Tellier, some claim that small business only competitions are SBA programs like 8A or the Women-Owned Small Business Program are not based on merit and award contracts to businesses that otherwise could not compete on price or quality. Can you lay out why these comments are misguided and tell us, or why they're a misguided view of federal contracting and how these programs actually level the playing field?
Yes, Congressman, I think I can even do that without swearing, although it takes a little bit of restraint on my part, candidly. I've never won a contract because I'm a WASB. I've won the opportunity to compete on a contract because I'm a WASB. But every contract I've won, it's because I have strong CPARs, I can do the work well, and I've proven that with my write-up and my pricing. My small business owner peers are the same way. And candidly, Mike's made some comments so far about how this affects the defense industrial base. When we look at whether or not government benefits from small businesses fleeing or from the socioeconomic set-asides not being deployed, if we don't bid, the agility leaves, the innovation leaves. I have a contract with an SWC Corona, and the crate that I'm producing for munitions has a 1/8 inch tolerance. I guarantee you none of my large competitors would bother with that, but I care deeply about it. You lose the passion in that too.
Mr. Ramos, your testimony, you mentioned that Raymond is an 8A program graduate.
Yes, sir.
What are some of the positive outcomes for your firm resulting from your participation in the 8A program?
We actually entered the federal marketplace, and specifically Department of Defense, because we are an 8A firm and we were able to get certified. That is how we entered into federal contracting. We saw an opportunity where we knew we could perform the work, but we needed a way, as Sue was saying, to have an avenue where we could be competitive with entrenched players. The way procurements are done today, it is all about past performance. It's not what I can do, it's what I've done for that specific agency. 8A has been incredibly helpful, as well as Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Small Business, in order to allow us that opportunity to have a shot at competing. Highly qualified firm, but you've got to have someone open the door for you, so to speak.
I think we've heard from these witnesses today the importance of the 8A program as well as the rule of two. I just hope the SBA administration is listening today and will follow up and support these programs into the future. Thank you very much. I yield back.
Gentleman yields. I now recognize the gentleman from Pennsylvania, my good friend and small business owner, Mr. Muser, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and it's very nice having you all here. Thanks for your testimony. It's quite important. It's important to us. It's extremely important to you. So we appreciate your detail and your specifics. I was in business for well over 20 years and engaged in some federal contracting, so I know what it's like. Now, so that was a few years back. Sometimes things get a little bit more regulatory over time, but it's always difficult, right? And we grew as a small business into a somewhat larger business, but it was difficult, right? There was a lot of gambits, a lot of traps, a lot of paperwork, a lot of visits to the different agency that you needed to win the contract from, and all that. But I'd like to focus on what was unfair, particularly for small business, because we're all small business advocates. What was unfair, and I'll start with you, Mr. Anumolu. What was unfair, and specifically, what would you like to see us correct?
I will give you 2-3 examples for verification purposes.
And Mr. Ramos, I'm going to come to you with the same
Yeah,
question.
it's 2-3 examples. If there is a job for, say, 8 people, they still give it to the big business because the big business has done that before, and they have performed well.
Okay, so it's a little bit lazy. They're not looking to, when you say you
Well, I
have.
don't want to use, that is your terminology,
no,
which I will
but-
endorse it. I'll accept you. Because just giving it to a big business, I don't want to name names, I can give you 5 names. They just give it to big business because.
Does the contracting officer visit your site?
They don't, sir.
Okay.
Very rarely. And so are banks, by the by, don't leave them out. They don't care as long as you are paying their bills.
That's very important, access to capital, and that's largely our other committee. And believe me, we are in
They
this
should be,
Congress working
they
on
have
that.
to be trained, sir. They're good people, but they're not trained.
As a former business person, I want to try to make a difference from this. So anything that you can provide us, we will get in the hands of those whom need to see it and where the corrections could be made. That's our role, oversight, not unfortunately
Absolutely.
implementation, although we can help force that. Mr. Ramos, same question.
I would say the entrance
That's it.
of the industry are a huge historical challenge. Getting into federal contracting can be the biggest win. If you win your first contract, that gives you a shot at maybe prolonging it long term, and that's what I would say historically. But I would say right now, the biggest issue might be CMMC. This will be an incredible barrier, an incredibly costly barrier for small businesses to enter. Even, we're not talking about 5-person companies, we could be talking about a 100-person company. That is a huge cost to bear just for the opportunity to compete on a contract.
Okay. And you did mention in your testimony how service-disabled, veteran-owned small business was crucial to your company's early growth. Just expand on that a little bit.
Yes, so as a basically a socioeconomic category, certain contracts are set aside for SDVOSB
Sure.
firms to actually compete. And so if you look at the Department of Veterans Affairs as a veteran-owned company, we were allowed access to a number of different projects that we could bid on individually or umbrella contracts. And because the competition pool is a little more limited, there's a better opportunity to actually win some of those contracts. And that's not to say that it's an unfair advantage. I do think it's important to prioritize our veterans, and most importantly, all of the firms that are going after those contracts are highly qualified. It's still very competitive.
If you're sitting in my seat, what are you working on later today, tomorrow, to improve the situation within contractors, federal, particularly defense, for small business?
I do think there is an opportunity to simplify procurements, and potentially on the flip side, on the backside, if we are going to do a government efficiency model and we're going to reduce workforce, there's absolutely a need to change the process so that we're efficient enough to still carry out the mission.
Okay, great. Ms. Tellier, same question.
I lost track of the question. I'm so sorry,
Question
sir.
was, you're sitting in our seat and you're focused on this and you want to make some differences. What are the top 1 or 2 or 3 things you focus on?
Codify the rule of 2. Make it a shell.
All right, very good. I'm about to run out of time, so I'm afraid if I hand it over to you, Mr. Anumolu, we may go over time, but I'm going to risk that. Go ahead. All right.
To do few things.
We may have to hold off. My apologies, sir.
Yeah.
I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
We'll give some deference to the gentleman. If in 30 seconds you can answer Mr. Mush's questions, what would you do if you were a member of Congress to help small businesses?
I will, if I'm there, I would certainly take notes of who are the players and where to correct them. I can give you 2, 3 examples so that can be made as a universal thing. Plus, I would add one small thing, sir, a team of banker, contracting officer, and the small business person should be put and trained for, say, 3 days.
Thank you.
I'm going to join the chairman on the next visit to your place out on Long Island.
You must, sir. I am in
Thank you,
Long
Mr.
Island
Chairman. I yield.
University, just to add, I didn't take their permission. I'm trustee there. I can talk to the president and the chairman. Sir, it is open, I can teach them. I am willing to teach that.
Thank
After
you. Our time has
38 year-
expired.
After 38 years, you should allow me to do that.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Yes.
Thank you. I now recognize the gentleman from California, former small business owner, Mr. Tran, for 5 minutes, but if he needs 6, we'll give him that instead.
Thank you, Chairman and Ranking Member, for convening today's very important hearing. And to the witnesses, appreciate you traveling to be with us and sharing your testimony. Ms. Teyu, in April of this year, the Department of Health and Human Services fired almost their entire Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization, also known as OSDSBU, staff, leaving only the executive director, despite requirements in the Small Business Act that the office have a minimum of 13 personnel. We have heard that the State Department has fired almost all of their staff as well, and there are draft proposals for reductions at other agencies or changes that would weaken ODSBU's authorities or independence. Can you discuss the role of ODSBU's and how your firm has worked with them?
Absolutely. I would, the acronyms are fun sometimes, aren't they?
Leave it to the government to
They
come up
really
with them.
Well, I haven't worked with HHS directly because so much of my work is within the defense industrial base. I can speak heavily about the level of professionalism and the level of helpfulness that I've gotten from especially DLA and Army OSDBU offices. The help that they give in guiding in the pre-solicitation or during the solicitation process, like the opportunity process, is very helpful. But I think a lot of people forget how much help they provide post-award. Last week, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name, which I'm mortified by, the head of the OSDBU office for DLA distribution helped me get paid. DLA was behind about 60 days on a contract that was valued at $187,000. So I had already obviously incurred all of those costs. They helped pull the trigger to get the contracting personnel to make sure that the items were received. On a post-award basis, they're helpful. On a pre-award basis, they're helpful. They make sure they're guiding us. I actually think they need more money, not less.
Thank you. And if the other two witnesses has any dealings with it, I would love to hear your testimony. Okay. Ms. Tellier, in your testimony, you state that you must have a level of confidence that you can win an award to invest the time and resources to develop a proposal and bid. If a small business did not know their competitors were also small businesses and understood that they might be competing with much larger corporation, how does that change the calculus around whether a small business bids on that contract?
The bid decision is heavily influenced by whether or not we perceive that we have a probability for a win, not a guarantee of a win. These aren't guarantees in any capacity. It's just the level playing field. If I feel like an opportunity is wired for someone else, including a large business, I'm not going to waste the time bidding. It's somewhere between 8 and 40 hours of my time, and that doesn't include the time of my employees to put together a complex proposal response. And I'm good at it. I'm quick at it. So there's companies that are newer to the space that would have a lot more of a time investment to do it well. It's not worth the time.
Thank you. Mr. Ramos, anything to add?
I wholeheartedly agree with those comments. It is critical that the government does understand there is a true business cost to putting together a procurement response. We do have to play a little bit of a numbers game, but at the end of the day, if I'm going up against large or unrestricted size companies, it's a huge deterrent for me to pursue those opportunities.
And as members of this committee, we are very concerned about small businesses, entrepreneurs, and the communities where your firm pays taxes and create jobs, but small business policies are a win-win for small businesses and the government. Can you, any one of you, talk about the benefits of your government customers when we have a robust small business industrial base? Yes, please.
We have created several hundreds of jobs throughout the communities. Our business model is create jobs in the community that has awarded us the contract. For example, if I got in San Diego, people in San Diego are hired by us, positioned by them, and we pay them the wages that we derive from that contract. In other words, we are building the local communities. That has been our business model for 38 years. Very successful. Same thing we did everywhere in the nation, not in one place. We are a nationwide company with nationwide contracts trying to help the local community with big wages. Whatever we bid, if I bid with 3%, 2% margins, rest of it is going to my employees. And this is not done by big business overheads are 80%. They pay, less. I don't want to comment that way, but their overheads are bigger than us.
And I thank you all for your testimony. I think I'm running out of time here, but congratulations on the success of your business, and you can count on this committee to help support you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. Next up in the batting order is the gentleman from Texas, a small business owner, the full committee chairman, Chairman Williams, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank all of you for your testimony. It's a good hearing, and we appreciate you being here. On this committee, we have repeatedly heard that government contracts and solicitations are often overly complex, making them difficult for many businesses to respond to successfully. We've seen the pile there at the chairman's desk. As Chairman Lalota has stated, less than 3% of the contracts of the Department of Defense were written in plain language. So, Mr. Ramos, to you, what steps has your firm taken to understand and respond to overly complex solicitations? And if contract solicitations were written in plain language, would this encourage small businesses like yours to compete more for government contracts?
Yes, sir. We almost have a full in-house lawyer at this point. That is required. We engage with our general counsel, who is a third party today, on a very regular basis on a number of issues related to federal contracting. That has been critical. That has also included training for our personnel so that we can become better experts. But this is an art at figuring out federal contracts. And I will say that if you figure out that art, you have an entrenched competitive advantage in order to continue going after contracts. So if we can simplify the language, then more small businesses will have an opportunity to compete.
Lawyers and accountants can get expensive, can't they?
Just a little.
Yeah. Regulations and red tape in government contracting can be a major strain on small businesses, as we've heard all day this morning, but forcing them to redirect their limited resources towards the cost of compliance rather than growing and expanding their businesses. So, Mr. Anumolu, how do these burdensome regulations and complicated solicitations impact your business and your bottom line?
Substantially, sir. So we try to avoid them to the extent we can and improvise ourselves to see if we can bid in. We did some bids like that, we did partial success. However, the strain we have to go through is horrendous. But we did it, sir. We have won against big businesses. But that is not the solution. That is what is survival we are doing. Survival techniques, which I learned at Harvard. Mm-hmm. But we have to prepare ourselves to be trained fully to work with plain language contracting, like you mentioned in your opening speech. Okay. And Congressman Lalota also mentioned. They should be simplified. They can be, it is very easy to simplify, sir. I don't know why they don't do it.
Because it's the government. They don't understand simple, but we do, and I appreciate your testimony.
Thank you, sir.
The Biden-Harris administration shackled businesses with an additional $1.8 trillion in regulations and 350 million additional man-hours, we'll call them, for compliance. That's just unbelievable. And thankfully, the Trump administration has already been able to eliminate over $75 billion in costly regulations. So, Mr. Ramos, to you, how do regulatory costs impact your business and staffing decisions as you go to work every day?
Actually, just yesterday, we were having our Q3 management team meeting, and hiring is something we talk about at all these, and hiring is based on profitability, strategic growth, and direction of the company. And I will tell you, regulations like CMMC have absolutely impacted how we are handling our business, and not for the better. This is a tremendous constraint. It's one example of the regulations that you're citing. And if we can work towards actually simplifying some of these regulations like the administration is aiming to do, then we are all for it. We project fewer regulations equals better growth.
It's more fun to be on offense than defense.
Yes, sir.
When you're on offense, it translates to predictability and profits and more jobs.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate your testimony, Mr. Chairman, and I yield my time back.
The gentleman yields. I now recognize Ms. Skolton, my good friend from Michigan and the former ranking member of this committee, for 5 minutes.
Wonderful. Though I've moved on to a different ranking position, I'm still honored to be a part of this fine committee. When the government contracts directly with small businesses, there are some things they can do only when the small business is a subcontractor. One of the ways Congress has encouraged fair treatment and proper utilization of small businesses that subcontract with larger primes is to include certain criteria in the prime contractor's past performance ratings. The most important of these criteria, I bet everyone would agree, is did the contractor make timely payments and whether they met their subcontracting goals. Ms. Tellier, my first question is for you. How important are those accountability mechanisms for small business subcontractors?
It's critical. The example that I used with Congressman we have to get paid. I can't wait 90 days to receive almost $250,000 from the government. I also can't do that with the prime contractors. The example that I use, by the way, is a little atypical. My government agencies usually pay me in a more timely manner than the prime contractors do. It would also be helpful if we had an understanding of how those ratings affected our customers who were prime contractors. So if I'm a sub under somebody and I have the option of subbing under two different companies, I'm probably going to take the one that on a dashboard would reflect they cared about me enough to pay me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Very helpful. Question 2, currently federal law requires that contracts under a certain amount be automatically set aside for a small business only competition. And yet a surprising amount of spending under that threshold is not awarded to small firms. The reason for which is still unclear. It's something we are trying to get to the bottom of. Some have pointed to things like software licenses and other products or services that can't be purchased via a small business. I have submitted an amendment to the NDAA that can get to the bottom of this issue and ensure that this spending is making its way to the small business as intended by federal law. Very pleased that it made it into the final round. Ms. Tellier, again, coming to you, can you talk a little bit about how small businesses utilize contracts under the SAT and why it's important to ensure that those opportunities are going to small businesses as intended?
Absolutely. The simplified acquisition threshold allows me to kind of fill my pipeline that is outside of my larger contracts. So the BPAs or IDIQs that I have that are larger are wonderful for predictability and stability, but the stuff under the simplified acquisition threshold allows me to grow too. So if it's a $240,000 opportunity, I would like that to go to small businesses. I've been at this a while, right? So as a company who's 18 years old now, I can still remember what the early days of trying to win my first contracts were like, and those were all under the SAT. And so for companies that are just emerging into the federal marketplace, and we want them to stay, and we want them to grow, and we want their innovations, and we want their engagement, we have to make sure that they feel welcome, and those under SAT contracts really allow them to do that.
Thank you. You know, this is not about giving a disadvantageous priority to the underdog. It is about making sure that our more nimble small businesses can actually compete in this space, which is what we want. The competition ensures we're getting the best quality product and the lowest potential price. It's good for business. It's good for national security. I see that you maybe wanted to weigh in or had some additional thoughts. I'd love to hear. I was going to toss it down that way.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm just very engaged. But using the 240K example, I would challenge any large business how they're going to manage their overheads so that it's actually cost effective and best cost for the government.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. My last question in my last minute, and we'll stick with you, Ms. Tellier. In your testimony, you mentioned that a small fraction of the dollars counted towards the women-owned small business goal are through WASB contracts. Instead, the majority of those contracts are open competitions, with WASB competing against other small businesses or sometimes large businesses and winning that work. I thought that was a really important point that was worth revisiting. What can we do to ensure agencies are using these tools as intended and bringing in more women-owned small businesses to compete for contracts, not necessarily automatically be granted them?
That's a great question. I think there's an educational component both on the side of industry and the side of government. Contracting professionals have a huge administrative burden, and each of the socioeconomic programs are different. The WASB program is the only one that's NAICS limited. They each have their quirks. Making sure that contracting professionals understand that they can and when they can set contracts aside keeps us competing. It keeps us in the pool. And then, making sure that industry is educated well so that they can beat their large counterparts, which I like to do.
Thank you. We appreciate it so much, and thank you for your comments too, sir. I yield back.
The gentlelady yields. I now recognize my new friend, Dr. Morrison from Minnesota, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Lalota and Ranking Member Cisneros, for holding this hearing, and thanks to our witnesses for being here to take the time to testify. This has been a really interesting and illuminating conversation. I'm grateful for your testimony. Contracting with federal agencies is an important avenue to help small businesses grow. Unfortunately, as we've heard, the number of small businesses participating in government contracting has decreased over the past decade. And I worry about how this administration's random termination of contracts and abrupt firing of federal employees will impact small businesses' decision to enter into government contracts. These once secure sources of revenue may now seem too risky for some small businesses. The Trump administration has proposed cutting the Small Business Administration's contracting office budget by almost a third. This includes reducing the number of SBA's procurement center representatives who are critical to ensuring the contracts are written in ways that enable small businesses to compete for them. Without SBA performing this critical role, agencies are likely to make contracts that are too large for small businesses or have more requirements than small businesses can meet, essentially making them inaccessible to small businesses. Ms. Tellier, could you describe how SBA employees have assisted your small business over the years and how cutting members of SBA's contracting office, such as procurement center representatives, could impact small businesses?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you for asking it. The procurement center representatives often are behind the scenes unknown advocates to those of us who are small business contractors. They are ensuring that subcontracting plans are adhered to, and they are ensuring competition is maximized practically within agencies. The SBA Office of Government Contracting has done a lot with a little for quite a few years. Any further cuts, it affects certification programs, it affects the ability to retain the PCR staff. That directly affects small businesses, even if many small businesses don't know they're being protected and advocated for by those PCRs.
Thank you. I share those concerns. I'm also worried about other ways that federal agencies are making it harder for small businesses to compete for contracts. For example, when federal agencies consolidate multiple contracts into a single larger contract, that puts the contract out of reach for small business. So this one is, again, for Ms. Tellier and Mr. Ramos, too. Both of your testimonies highlight recent changes to how the government conducts market research before a contract can be consolidated. Can you elaborate on the impact on small businesses when billions in contracts are consolidated every year? Mr. Ramos, we could begin with you.
That's a fantastic question. Bundling probably has some place in driving better efficiency in government contracting, but if you are bundling that volume of contract, that puts it completely out of reach of small business. I would say the opportunity, if we want to consolidate contracts, there are a lot of zombie contracts in existence, and the market research should be a little bit more thorough so that those don't come into existence. They cost us money in order to actually secure. No awards actually happen under those contracts, and so that would be the more preferred, in my opinion, on if we're taking a consolidation approach.
Thank you. Ms. Tellier?
I would agree with his comments. Category management or bundling just generally is it goes to the perception. If as a small business I don't think I can compete to win, I'm not going to spend $75,000 trying to get on a best-in-class vehicle that I'm not going to get spent on. I haven't heard it called a zombie before, but I love that word now, and I'm going to keep using that. So thank you.
It's apt.
Yeah, I do think the market research goes a little bit further on that too. Being able to have that market research involve engaging with small businesses would allow that input to come into it to avoid the consolidation in the first place.
Yeah. If a small business's contract is consolidated, what resources or assistance are available for that business from the SBA or the contracting agency?
I mean, I would start with YASDABU office within the agency, and then I would rely heavily on the PCR for that region as well. And if that didn't work, I would call Congresswoman Skolden.
Good idea. Thank you so much for your testimony. And I yield back.
The gentlelady yields. After consulting with the ranking member, we will now move to our second round of questions under the 5-minute rule, and I now recognize myself for 5 minutes. Mr. Ramos, I was quite impressed by your resume, including a couple of the degrees you have.
Thank you.
Chemical engineering degree from MIT.
Yes, sir.
And a Master's of Science of Chemistry from Tufts. Pretty impressive.
Thank you.
When one Googles that, one reads that earning a chemical engineering degree at MIT is widely considered one of the toughest academic paths in higher education. Yet, even with that strong academic background, you said in a previous round of questioning, you had to hire a lawyer in order to go through these massive government applications. You have to consult with 2,000 pages in the FAR. And even a guy who graduated from MIT in a degree that I don't understand at all has to do those things. So the point is, how can a regular American go through these processes if the MIT chemical engineering grad has to outsource and bring on an attorney to go through that? So can you share with me some of the frustrations, experiences, or whatnot that you've been through as an MIT grad who's got a chemical engineering degree and going through some of these onerous government contracts? What burden has it placed upon you personally?
Well, the first thing is if an average person wants to do that, they can do it, but they quit their day job. This has to be the only thing that they do. And they're not running a company, they're not performing on contracts, they have to spend all of their time doing something like this. A lawyer is necessary. And so some of the frustrations, we see a tremendous amount of variability as well. It's not just that you have 1,000-page contract or something like that. The next one that may come from the next office over may be completely different for the same level of services or the same types of services being provided. This is a problem because now you may have brought in your lawyer, you may have brought in some friends or colleagues that are former contracting officers in order to try and get through it. You now have the same problem the next day. It continually repeats itself.
And I want to be very transparent in this. Yes, this committee wants to make life easier on small businesses. That's part of that's in our wheelhouse. It's not just out of charity and benevolence or just being good guys that we want to make things easier on you. It's out of wanting to have more applications, and we have more applications. Government gets a better price, arguably a better product that could be more on time and a higher quality. Selfishly, government should want to make it easier on applicants to be a part of the process. We shouldn't want to drown you in paperwork. We shouldn't want you to have to give up your specialty to now become a government applicant specialist. So tell me a little more about how you've had to outsource that, and it affects your ability to focus on what is most important for your business.
Well, one of the first things you have to remember is if we have less that we have to do in a procurement, that means we can respond to more, which means we can actually take shots on goal at innovating. We can't do that today. We have to focus solely on the evaluation criteria, which is incredibly rigid. And so having to outsource this, we hire a general counsel. There's a tremendous amount of cost that comes with just having lawyers. We have to actually go to our partners that are typically bigger businesses or maybe teaming partners on those. Those are things that we might be able to get just because we're a good firm and we've got good connections in order to rely on those resources. Or we might have to hire a complete third-party consultant, not only to write that proposal, but also have a consultant to help us actually navigate the federal landscape and actually doing business development outside of the procurement process so that we can be positioned just to have a shot at those procurements.
Ms. Tellier, do you have a similar experience that the Bipartisan Plain Language and Contracting Act is meant to address these issues for all small businesses, either anecdotally or whatnot? Do you have a similar experience as Mr. Ramos?
I think we all do, candidly. I think we all have an understanding that when we're comparing a commercial opportunity that's 4 pages with a 158-page solicitation, the risk-reward ratio comes into play there. If we can simplify, that certainly helps. I would offer that it might not be the most important barrier to entry for small companies, but it is certainly one.
Thank you. I'm going to yield the rest of my time back and recognize my friend from California, Mr. Sinazeros, for 5 minutes.
It works a lot better if I turn on the mic and have it in front of me. Ms. Tellier, I just kind of want to follow up on a previous question that you got, right? Previous efforts have sought to consolidate contracts through initiatives such as category management, consolidating efforts that put contracts out of reach for many small businesses, including some that have previously performed the work. Can you elaborate more on the costs and requirements for small businesses to get on certain contracting vehicles before you can compete?
Absolutely. Any of the multiple award vehicles have a pretty intensive either application process or proposal process. If you do that in-house, that can take somewhere between 20 and 100 hours of time. In a small business, that's unfortunately sometimes the owner of the company. And to Mr. Ramos's point, that's innovation leaving, and there's a focus on just submitting the process. There's an opportunity cost to my time. Once I get on that vehicle, now that I know the word zombie contract, which I'm smitten with clearly, once I get on that vehicle, I might never get spend. There might not be opportunities that come out through it. But I'm still responding to task orders on that. If I get on that vehicle, I'm still responding to task orders on it. It's an intense outlay of time and money at the beginning, and then it just continues.
Mr. Ramos?
I would maybe amplify the comment. We were going to, when we have our umbrella contracts, we go after task orders. I've had years where we've hit over 100 task orders we've had to respond to on contracts that we already own and that we've already won, in addition to trying to secure new work on other federal procurements or even in the non-federal realm. And so, I mean, there is a huge cost outlay in order to do this.
All right. Ms. Tellier, DOGE cuts led to prime contract terminating subcontracts with smaller firms, including those by women-owned small businesses, veteran-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses. What was the impact of these terminations for small businesses? What have you heard from your other small businesses?
It's been quite devastating. Thank you so much for that question. It really hasn't come up. Having contracts canceled mid-cycle means that there are people that lost their jobs. Those contracts had employees associated with them. The performance of the work statement required bodies. It required inputs. Some of those inputs had fixed costs that were already sunk into them. So small business contractors, some of them closed. Some of those contracts were substantial, and they couldn't survive. But what it did for the rest of the contracting community is inject unpredictability. And unpredictability for a small business is just inherent risk. So I didn't get doged. The verb doged, I didn't get it. But it still injected unpredictability into my decisions as a federal contractor.
No, I think that's what we heard from many small businesses, right, is that they didn't know what was going to come next. They didn't know, and it doesn't matter whether it was the small businesses, I would say the school districts, everybody, the local governments. You go, we just want to know what's going to happen, right? Just tell us what's going to happen, as unpredictability does not help us at all. And if I could just throw one last question in there, and I'll open this up to the panel, but what advice would you give to a small business, either just starting out or an existing commercial firm that is interested in contracting with the federal government for the first time? What advice would you give them?
This is a very expensive endeavor. So make sure you have your cash flow lined up. The entry-level regulations that you're going to have to meet in order to enter into the federal marketplace is almost insurmountable for small companies, even established commercial companies. This is a very big challenge.
Tellier?
I would like to give in.
No, I'll get you, sir. I'll get you, sir.
I would weigh in very quickly that there are some fabulous resources that you fund for small businesses who are entering. The Apex Accelerators and the Small Business Development Centers are a great starting point as well. But it is expensive.
Thank you. And sir, please.
My only request is, if they want to start off, be prepared to spend 24/7 on this project in a committed way. Otherwise, there will be two losers. One is the person who started the business, and also the government.
All right. With that, I yield back my time.
The gentleman yields, and we're going to adjourn in a minute, but I want to thank our witnesses for traveling to Washington, for being a part. Mr. Latimer, do you? Okay. I do want to thank our witnesses for traveling to Washington. This is insightful. We spent about an hour and 20 minutes together having a good dialogue. We read your bios, we read your testimony, but the dialogue that we were able to have afterwards is productive for this committee that does a lot of decent bipartisan work. Yeah, we have some differences about some of the things on the fringes, but for the most part, we agree on a lot. And your testimony helps illuminate some of the things that we're most focused on. So I definitely want to thank you for being a part of that. And without objection, members have 5 legislative days to submit additional materials and written questions for the witnesses to the chair, which will be forwarded then to the witnesses. And I would ask the witnesses, if you get that correspondence, to please reply promptly. If there's no further business, without objection, the committee stands adjourned.